Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We're getting weird feedback on the Zoom. Now we got it settled, I think. Zoom land, can you still hear us? Lynn Rubinson, can you hear us? Good. Shabbat Shalom. We begin with song as we do each Shabbat.
We will begin with this Hine Matov by Alana Arian, so please join in. Hine Matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. One more time. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. This is the echo part. It goes like this. How good it is, how good it is, how sweet it is,
How sweet it is
to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good it is,
how good it is,
how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. One more time. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad.
We turn now to page 13 and 14 and join together in Shir Chadash.
If you also want the English words to this, I realize it's in the back of the book on page 344. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth, a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. I will sing unto God a new song.
We turn now to page 24 for Shalom Aleichem, and as we do, turn to your neighbors and say hello and Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Aleichem to all of them. On Zoom, say hello to the person in the box next to you.
Great. There we go. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Bimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Borachem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Bimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Bimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Bimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Bimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shuvchem l'shalom, return, O you angels. Shuvchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Bimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Bimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We turn back now to page 20 and 21 as we join together in Lecha Dodi. When we reach the final verse, I invite everyone to rise in body or spirit as we welcome the Sabbath bride. For now, page 20.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmiyanu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad, Ushmo echad, L'shemu tiferet v'litila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki himkor hameracha, Merosh mikerem nesucha, Sof maaseh b'machshavat chila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabelah. Hitoreri, kiva ore kumi uri, shindaberi, kiva Adonai halayich niglam. Lecha dodi ligrad kalam. P'nei Shabbat nekabelah, lecha dodi ligrad kalam. P'nei Shabbat nekabelah. Bohi v'shalom ateret ba'alam. גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוכנו עיני עם סגולה, בואי חלם, בואי חלם. לך דודי לקראת כלם, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We continue with Kaddish Shalem on page 26.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבם, בעלמא דברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, וחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבם מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם וינשא ויתעלה שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמא ויאמרו Amen.
As we turn the page to 28 for the Baruch Hu, we invite everyone to rise in body or spirit.
Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach. HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed.
On page 31, we continue together at the top. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and seasons glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו, ובהם נגי יומם ולילה, נגי יומם ולילה. ועבדך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
ואהבת
את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים אלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, Adonai Elohechem, amen.
Please be seated. We continue now as we turn to page 39 and join together in the middle of the page. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? Ya la la la, la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar hakodesh. Nora tehilot osefele, Nora tehilot osefele. Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai?
The pain we feel as Americans this week continues unabated. The shootings last weekend in Highland Park hit some of us very close to home. Drew, after all, worked at North Shore Congregation Israel, who lost a member in that terrible shooting. My own aunt was on a float in the parade about a block and a half back from where the shooting took place. And more and more and more, there are more connections and more pain and more sadness. At some point, I hope and I pray that we will come to the realization that Golda Meir once suggested, that we love our own more than we hate the other. But it sure feels right now like hate is winning. So what do we do with that? How do we live with that pain? How do we live with that overwhelming sense of hatred and loss? One answer is to turn not to ourselves, but to each other. To look around the room and to see not just the things that we share in common, but all the things that differentiate ourselves. All the things that make each one of us unique and separate and different from the next one, and yet to recognize that it is those differences that we honor that bring us together. Hashkivenu as a prayer calls us to see that we have more that connects us than what we might first realize. And so on this Shabbat, which we pray is a Shabbat of rest, a Shabbat of peace, a Shabbat of calm, a Shabbat of wholeness, let us look out and see not just that which we share, but that which is different. And let us give thanks for all of it. And let us celebrate all of it. And let us look out into the world after Shabbat ends and recognize those differences and see the sparks of holiness in every one of those unique, special, and different traits. Give us a place to rest, Adonai, our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us the shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. We turn to page 44 as we sing these words celebrating and observing Shabbat, these words from Torah, Vishamru. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם אותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
As we turn the page to 46, I invite everyone to rise in body or spirit as we join together in the evening tefillah.
Adonai sfatai tiftach, Adonai sfatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai sfatai tiftach, Adonai sfatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע מוריד הטל מכלכל חיים בחסד מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue silently now through page 63, including both the prayers of the prayer book and the prayers of our own hearts. Please be seated at your own pace. Page 60.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam Ki atahu melech adon לכל השלום כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. בטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם, תשים לעולם.
We turn ahead in our prayer books now to page 253 as we join together in a Mishaberach prayer, a prayer for healing. As a congregation on this Shabbat, we especially pray for Joey Dawn Gillespie, Alex Botkin, Jack Glasser, Rhoda Sugarman, Gary Katz, Janice Kiley, Michael L., Howard G., Stanley W., Chanita Kasowski, Alan Snyder, Alan Wolk, George Gurneth, Jennifer Pinson, Susan Horn, Kathy Lowry, Pat Fields, Jamie Adams, James Adams, Miriam Fruma, Manny Gordon, Tanya Bass, Rabbi Sarah Perman, Levia Bat Chaim, Stan Savrin, Ruth Fax, Arnie Kamen, Keely Roberts, Cooper Roberts, and all of those who were injured in Highland Park this last Shabbat. If there are other names to mention, I invite you to rise now and as our eyes meet to say the names of those friends or loved ones out loud. And on Zoom, we add the names of Patty Kaufman and Judith Kovach. We join together on 253.
Bisheberach avotenu bekol habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu Mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shleima, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rofeh hacholim. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, healer of the sick. And now a few moments to celebrate good things. So who has good news? Who has a birthday or an anniversary or something good to share? There's got to be something good going on.
In 2 days, I'm leaving for Connecticut to go to the North American Jewish Choral Festival.
Nice. I have lots of friends who you'll see there.
So something that brought me hope today was over 100 young people gathered together with Youth Enrichment Services and many other youth organizations in East Liberty to talk about what young people can do and what our community can do to reduce violence in Pittsburgh.
Nice.
So it was really hopeful.
Good. We need more. Who else has something good to share?
The Supreme Court is in recess.
Thus says the lawyer. Did you learn that in first year, second year, or third year law school? Who else has something good to share? What about on Zoom land? Anybody have anything good to share on Zoom? I can see stuff coming in there. Let's see what we got. So we have from Lynn Rubinson, she had company for a week. She was glad they were there and glad they went home. From Lenore Wasidlo, her son with autism moved into his new CLA home, community living assisted, and is adjusting well. From Susan Blackman, my cat Ira had 4 teeth extracted today and is doing fine. And from the Kaluras, Rachel finished paleontology camp this week. From Lynn Fields, only 22 days until Pat has brain surgery after years of trying. And from Carol Elstein, one of her closest childhood friends visited this week, and she lives in State College. So we share the joy with all of those moments of good news, and we look forward to celebrating more. For now, though, we go back to singing, Oseh Shalom.
This is a particularly joyous setting of Oseh Shalom. We have to sing joyously after all those things. This is a setting I wrote myself, so I'm going to teach it to you. And it goes like this. Oseh Shalom bimromav, Uhuya Oseh Shalom. Try that with me. Oseh Shalom bimromav, Uhuya Oseh Shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'himeru amen. Try that with me. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'himeru amen. That's the first part. Oseh Shalom bimromav, Uhuya Oseh Shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'himeru amen. This is part 2. Oseh Shalom bimromav. Try that with me. Oseh Shalom bimromav, Uhuya Oseh Shalom. Uhuya Oseh Shalom. We're going to climb up a ladder like this. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'himeru amen. Try that one more time. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'himeru amen. Back to the top. Oseh Shalom bimromav, Uhuya Oseh Shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'himeru amen. Oseh Shalom bimromav, Uhuya Oseh Shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'himeru amen. Ve'himeru amen.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I look forward to singing that tune more and more.
We will.
You like the composer?
We'll add in the harmonies.
You like the composer?
I think so.
I keep hearing good things about him. So. Shabbat Shalom. Our Torah portion this Shabbat is the story of a talking donkey. It's not Shrek, but Shrek's not far off. So the Israelites are waiting to get into the land of Israel. They're close. We've been traveling for 38 plus years at this point in the journey. They have worked their way through the Amorites and the Ammonites, and now it's the Moabites who are in their way. And the Moabites get afraid. The Israelites say, let us pass through. We're not going to do any harm, just let us pass through. But the Moabites see something very different than the Israelites see. The Israelites see a settlement in front of them that they need to get from here to there. They don't see anything particularly fearful or dreadful. They don't see anything particularly unusual. What they see is a group of people that they need to pass through. No need for harm, no need for antagonism or anything else. The Moabites, on the other hand, see something wildly different. They look out and see the Israelites, this huge mass of people, and they see fear. They're afraid that they're going to be attacked. They're afraid that this group of people are going to come through and not just pass through, but plunder them and take control. And they've heard, after all, of what happened last week to the Ammonites and the Amorites, and they're afraid that the same thing's going to happen to them. So their leader reaches out to another voice, to a prophet in another land, and says, come help me. And that prophet comes down and he sees something yet totally different from the other two. The prophet sees Israel as this hand-selected by God entity that God is in charge of. And so he, instead of offering words of curse, offers words of blessing. And the one who hires him says, what are you doing? I brought you here to curse, you're blessing. And he says, you're not seeing what I am seeing. And so we're looking at the same object, the same set of facts, from 3 or 4 different vantage points. And each of them are giving us a different response. Now, the same thing happens all the time. If you go to a press conference, or God forbid you have to give a press conference, each reporter is going to listen, and they're each going to take notes, and they're all going to be slightly different, even though they've heard the same thing. Back in the days when I was an intern in the White House, we used to work on this all the time. The question is, what message did we want to send home? And how were we going to do that? And when I worked as a speechwriter, even before that, it was that take-home message that was the driving force. It was, forget about all the other incidentals. What are the 3 lines you want the reporter getting from this conference? And we worked hard at making sure that we could craft that little take-home message and make it crisp and clear. When we bring a whole group of people or groups of people together and witness the same thing, we're going to see wildly different things. Which is why if you look out in America today, there are some who look out with sheer pain and horror and agony, and there are others who look out at the current state of affairs in America with joy and hope and optimism. We're all seeing the same thing, but we're seeing them through our own eyes, through our own experience, through our own lives. And in that seeing, in that difference of seeing, so much truth becomes visible to each of us. If we're going to look out at America today, though, and be honest, even if you think that things are great, one has to recognize that there is pain at a new level in this country today. There is discord on a new level in this country today. I spoke with a group of Catholic priests. I've told you about this. They were opposed to the Supreme Court decision. They said, this isn't the way we want it. We don't want this kind of division. They looked around and said, this kind of pain isn't good for society. Now, the rabbis in the room smiled and said, you're one of us. But the result was, how do we see? What are we seeing and what's being seen? And so let's be honest with what we're seeing today in America. We're seeing separation. We're seeing differentiation. We're seeing a sense of no longer coming together as one society, but rather being driven off in our own camps. This group going this way, this group going that way. And if we're going to be honest about it, I believe we're seeing a new kind of slavery in America too. The events of the last week or two have shown just how much we are enslaved to guns and to a particular understanding of the Constitution. The Constitution was written 200 and some plus years ago by a group of men who were attempting to create a more perfect union. A more perfect union, not a perfect union. They didn't believe that they had all of the answers. They believed that they had a direction, a sense of where things might be best headed, but only that, only a sense. Yet today we have in our midst a group of people who believe that that is the word of law and the word of God, that it is unalterable, that there is only one understanding of that. If this sounds familiar to us as Reformed Jews, it should, because this is, after all, what led to the birth of the Reform movement. It was Judaism being stuck slaves to law rather than recognizing who and what the people were and wanted. And we Reformed Jews revolted, and we said we need to reform, we need to change. And so we crafted a new Judaism that was based on Jewish peoplehood, that started with Jewish law, but then said, when Jewish people change, we've got to change with it. And yes, there are some core elements that will never change. We're not going to start debating whether there is one God or not. There are definite boundaries. The Hebrew is yesh gvul. There is definitely a place where we hit a line and that's it. But in the whole grand scheme of things, there is much wiggle room. There is much place to say, maybe it's this and maybe it's that, and to wrestle back and forth, and to have the high and lofty conversations that I think our forefathers in this country hoped would ensue here as well. But we've lost that. Instead, we have a whole group of people, they call themselves the Federalists. They believe that there is one interpretation of the text and that's it. And their understanding is that's the way it's supposed to be. And when it comes to guns, they look at it a very particular way. And we saw the result this week. A young man who had no business owning high-powered rifles. Not that any of us has any business owning such weapons, but a young man who clearly had no business owning one, got them legally, opened fire on a 4th of July parade, and injured a whole nation. We have allowed ourselves to become slaves to a text. We have allowed ourselves to become slaves to guns. And until we recognize that we Reformed Jews have an answer that we need to share, we're going to continue to suffer. Now, I'm not saying that Reformed Judaism is the only answer and the only way to work through all of this. But what I am saying is that we have a particular gift, that you and I share a particular history, and that we have a particular understanding that right now can benefit our country. If we can find a way to look out and say, there's a way to honor these founding documents. There's a way to hold true to them while still holding true to where the people are, and that there is some middle ground there, then perhaps there is hope for our society. If I had told our ancestors 175 years ago that there would be a synagogue filled with Jews on a Friday night, praying and singing together, they would say, lovely, wonderful, where do we sign up? And then if I told them that the prayers weren't all in Hebrew, some were in English, most of them would have probably said, well, what's English? Because most of our ancestors weren't in the English-speaking world at that point. And we would have said they're speaking the vernacular, and they would have said, okay. And we would have said, some of them aren't going to go home and have Shabbat dinner. And they would have looked around and said, no Shabbat dinner? What are you talking about? And we said, some of them are going to use electricity. And some of them are going to do this, and some of them are going to do that, and some of them are going to do the other. You know what our ancestors would have done? They would have said, where's the dotted line I want to sign? If our tradition continues to live 175 years from now, I don't care if it's changed a little bit. That it's still alive and well and meaningful and powerful, that's what we want and need. And so our ancestors went about making the changes so that you and I could find a place like this synagogue and find a way to practice Judaism that makes sense in 2022. And we're at work, hard at work, day in and day out, making sure that Judaism continues to make sense, not just today, but for the generations yet to come. And so if I told our ancestors that we had this thing called Zoom and people were watching from all over the place, and we had somebody who was watching in another state and participating in a service, they would be mystified. But if I said to them, "Nu, we've created Jewish community, and we have figured out a way to include people from all over, people who live in small towns and big cities, and make all of them a part of a Jewish world," they would sit back and smile and say, "Well, how do you like that?" So the question is, what do you want your descendants to say in 175 years? Do you want them to say that we remain slaves? Or do you want them to say that we broke the shackles of slavery? We're not trying to break the Constitution. We're not trying to break the right to own a gun. But what we are saying is that there are limits and there are reforms that are necessary and healthy and will make us continue to survive well into the future. And it is this piece of who we are as Reformed Jews that our society needs to hear from now more than ever. I wish I could tell you that I wasn't going to have to give this sermon again and again and again. I can tell you I've given it way too many times already. But I will not stop giving this sermon until we no longer need it. There is a way to see the same exact event from 8 different angles. And if we just move from our angle to another, a whole new world opens up. And so what the donkey saw was wildly different than what the Moabites saw. And what the Moabites saw was wildly different than what the Israelites saw. And what you and I see is wildly different than what others in our society are seeing. Let us embrace that difference. Let us embrace that multivalence that is our life and our world. And let us use our own history, our own tradition, to guide us, to help us build a better Jewish world for the generations to come, and yes, a better American world for the generations to come. Next Passover, we're going to sit down at the Seder table and ask, in what ways are we slaves and in what ways are we free? What can we do between now and then to say, over the last year, we loosened these shackles and we found new freedom? There are paths forward. They start with political involvement, but they start even more with person-to-person contact, with getting to know somebody who's different, with hearing them, and with understanding our own history. And so at Passover next year, I look forward to saying, I helped our country, I helped our society, I helped my community see that there is another way to live that's still true to our values, but that protects all of us and embraces all of us rather than limiting us. This is the goal. This is the goal for us. It is to do what the reformers did, to make Judaism come alive and stay alive, to make Americanism come alive and stay alive. We Reformed Jews were given a gift. It's time for us to share that gift. I hope you'll join me in sharing it. Shabbat Shalom. A few brief announcements. This first one is directed to you, Dale Lazar, and only to you. Well, not only to you, but largely to you. On August 16th, it is Jewish Heritage Night at the Pittsburgh Pirates game, and our choir, led by our cantor, are going to be singing the national anthem. And Dale, they need your voice. On the field singing? Give the camera to Lynn. Rick, it'll be your second opportunity to be on the field this season. Does that mean you'll sing? Carol, is that a good idea? If you're interested in joining with the cantor and the choir, we really are welcoming anybody who wants to sing and be a part of it all. Even Dale and Rick are welcome to join us. Please speak with the cantor at the ONAG or call or contact during the week, but it really is a wonderful opportunity for us. Cantor has opened it up as well to the members of the choir at Rodef Shalom, since we have done so many joint musical things together with them. And so it promises to be a wonderful opportunity for us. And I think they're giving out water bottles that say "Go Pirates" in Hebrew. So, lots of benefits for going that night. Tomorrow morning we have Torah study at 8:30 and Shabbat morning minyan at 9:15. The ONEG this evening is sponsored by Watts. Our greeters tonight were Steve German and Jeanette Trouth. I trust they made everybody feel welcome and at home. Thank you. Parshat HaShavua class is Wednesday at noon. Thursday, we have Temple Sinai volunteers for the East End Cooperative Ministry dinner, which will take place over there at the EECM building. So if you want to be involved with that, let me know or let Frank Schwartz know. I think Frank is one of the coordinators there. But let me know and I'll be able to help. Next Friday evening, Tat Shabbat will take place beginning at 5 o'clock. And please do let us know if you're going to be there in advance so that we make sure we have enough food for everybody. And not that I like making this announcement, but high holidays are coming. So our first planning meetings are coming this week. And high holidays are right now about 2 months away. So enjoy the summer while you can, right? All right, we return to our prayer books, to our service. We turn to page 282 and we rise for Aleinu L'Shabeach.
Aleinu L'Shabeach L'Adon HaKol, L'Ante Gidula L'Yotzeh Bereshit, Shelo Asanu K'yoyeh Haratzot, Velo Samanu K'mishpechot Adama, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. We pause now to recall those who came before us, those who gave us life, those who joined together to create this holy congregation. As a congregation, we think of those whose yortzeit occurs in the coming days: Leon Adelson, Edward Averbach, Paul Barkley, Sam Bodek, Benjamin Brody, Ruth Chernow, Abba Zimmerman, Samuel Damashek, Devra Danovitz, Arnold Dubin, Myra Fall, Martin Freed, Pamela Hope Friedman Vasquez, Meyer Mickey Gerson, Leonard Glick, Lenky Glodowski, Samuel Morris Gold, Edith Goldstein, Sidney Goodman, Sidney Gottfried, Dorothy Hoffman, Abe Kaplan, Rose Karb, Kolb Court, Lissy Kramer, Sidney Quall, Harry W. Latterman, Edward Lebovitz, Irene Lewick, Harry Lewick, Alex Lutzker, Hyman Minde, Hyman Minkoff, Melvin Penner, Morris Rack, Joseph Roth, Harry Rubin, Morris Rubenstein, Lawrence Rudick, Sidney Schumann, Jane Siegel, Paula Schlesinger, Morris Snyderman, Herbert Walker, Richard Yurko. And to those names, we add the names of those taken from us only in recent weeks: Robert Littman, Arlene Ludden, Ruth Goldman, Jackie Sundheim, Lucille Katz, and Ronald Berkman. We rise as one congregation as we share the words of Mourner's Kaddish. found on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudashah b'richu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, huya aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
May God grant comfort to all the bereaved among us, and together we say, Amen. In a moment, we will conclude and then join together for Kiddush and Motzi. We invite you to join us afterwards for the Oneg Shabbat, which will take place in the auditorium. For now, though,
our closing song is on page 353. If you need the words, it's Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam Shalom, Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam, Salam Shalom. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam Shalom. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam Shalom. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam.
we join together for Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza banu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron le'maaseh v'reishit. Ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim. Ki vanu bacharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol habim, v'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen lechaim.
And please join us for the Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avon.
Shabbat Shalom.